What's up, folks? Edward here, Old Place Outdoors, and I just wanted to get out here today and talk to you about something that I get a lot of questions about, and that's using a mouth call. And I do want to say, though, before I get going with it, that I was coming out here about half hour or so ago to get set up and was warming up with my mouth call and getting it going, and one hammered back here probably about, like, I don't know, 200 yards or so. So I had to shut up. I didn't want to get him too fired up, but I think it was just a courtesy gobble or a shock gobble anyways. But wanted to save him for another day, if you know what I mean. So, but I'm sure, the weather's just been phenomenal, and I'm sure that they're thinking about it just as much as we are. And so all that said, though, let's just jump right into it. Again, I want to talk about the mouth call, and I get a lot of questions about it, and it's usually something the same old tune of, just never been able to make a sound with one, or can't get comfortable with one, and makes me feel like I'm choking, and just basically wanting to know how to use one. So I thought I'd today just kind of talk about some of the fundamentals of a mouth call, and just kind of help you to understand how it's made, and start understanding how to use it, and hopefully by April maybe make some turkey sounds with it. So all that said, just jumping right in, let's first talk about the construction of a mouth call. And looking at the biggest part here, this black section, that's what's known as the tape. And the tape is basically the part that it kind of conforms to the roof of the mouth, and helps it kind of stay in place, so to speak. And it doesn't affect the sound of the call. And you can trim these things down to fit your mouth, or so they can be kind of the larger tapes are trimmed down to almost nothing. And if you know how to run the reed, then you can still make sound even if there was no tape left practically. But the color of the tape is not really just dictated by what the call maker, his discretion. It's like basically for quick recognition, like I can look in my pouch and quickly know what cut is from a green tape, so to speak. But so no real rhyme or reason for that. But more importantly, looking at some of these other parts, you have this next little half moon section. That's what's known as the frame. And the frame is a very important piece because it holds your reeds together. And your reeds are kind of stacked layers of latex, that rubber or latex, that more or less that's what produces the sound. And there could be anywhere from 2 to 3 or more stacks of latex in there, or reeds, and that's where your sound's coming from. Now on your top reed, you're going to have a cut, and we're going to talk more about all that in just a second. But that's how you determine top from bottom. But then flipping it back over and looking at the bottom, you're going to see there's a little tab here. So jumping back to talking about the frame, that little protrusion right there is what's known as a tab, and that's bent down and kind of helps to lock that frame back around that reed and keep that tension even more secure. Now, not all frames are going to have a tab on it, but a lot of the ones that you get do have that little tab that you see there. And that kind of helps you identify the bottom of the call. The cut, again, helps you identify the top of the call. So just kind of expounding on that for a minute, let's talk about the bottom and the top and the cut. Because if you don't know this, then it's very important, and it's one of the fundamental pieces of mouth calling. The cut, again, being at the top. If I run this call with the cut on the top of my mouth, then I'm going to get that crunch, or that rasp that I'm looking for. Whereas if it's in there wrong, I'm not going to get that final little crunchy crackling at the end that gives you that rasp. And I'm going to demonstrate that real quick. I'm going to run this the right way, flip it over. That way you can hear the right and the wrong way. Starting out with it with the cut up. Flipping it. But you can see with the same amount of air, I'm not getting that like crunchy, crackly end note that I'm trying to produce to mimic that rasp. And so this, again, the right way, you can hear that like kind of crackly end. That's what's known as the rasp, and that's what you want to be able to mimic that sound. And so now there can be some strategy to flipping that call over and using it where you're muffling that rasp out. But for the most part, the right orientation as your cut is going to be up. Now, as we start talking about positioning in the mouth, I thought that this would be a good way to kind of demonstrate that. I picked up this little fella, and that's some white teeth, ain't it? Pretty set of chompers, but I figured this would be better than you guys trying to look in my mouth. But so we, again, we find where our cut is, and our cut being up. I want you to focus here now on this, on the roof of this mouth. So this is what's all known as the hard palate of the mouth, and on back in the back is the soft palate. But right up here, you got the rigid structure of the hard palate up toward the front. And for me, right, that contour kind of starts to change. It's a little bit more, concave right here, about where that like kind of the rigid structures kind of fade out in my mouth personally. But everybody's mouth is different. But in me personally, right about in that general vicinity is about where that call sits. And you can see you have that pressed up into the roof of that mouth with that gap just barely over the top. And then as your mouth closes down over top of it, that's about where it sits. But again, that's one of those things that's the positioning, that's not going to be a constant. Your mouth might be a different shape than this or mine, so it could be forward or after that just a little bit. But generally speaking, that's the vicinity. And the best thing you can do in order to figure that out is just goes back to just practice. Get the call in your mouth and start trying to figure out where does it comfortably sit. You might need to trim that tape down some. You might need to try that smaller frame that like what I was talking about, and see what works better. But having that call in your mouth frequently and getting comfortable with it just in there all the time, because like when you get comfortable with it, as you can see, I've been sitting here talking this whole time, and when I'm in the turkey woods, I pretty much have a turkey call in my mouth the entire time. Like it could be hours at a time, so that is one of the most fundamental steps to get over first, is call placement and call comfort, getting over being able to put it in your mouth without having that gag reflex or anything. And once you get past that, then you start working on some of the fundamentals of making the sound. And so we'll kind of continue on with that, but focus on the placement of it. If you've never used one before, or you've tried it and maybe have failed, or maybe you've tried it and you couldn't get the sounds you wanted, maybe you were putting it in there upside down or something. But again, just remember the cut is going to be at the top, and if you think of it like a horseshoe, the open end of it is going to be going out, because you're pushing air out. You're never wanting to pull in on these. You're pushing air out and forcing air over that through or around the reed, and trying to activate that reed on the top to get that crackly sound. So cut on the top and tab on the bottom facing out. And so get used to doing that. Focus on that 2-note yelp, like I always say, and we'll check you on another time on another video to start making some sounds. So catch you later.